All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome and thank you for attending this third installment of our admissions webinar series. The first week we focused on talking about the first year experience, so admitted students could get a taste for what it would be like to be a first year student. And then last week we talked about experience-based learning, so how to get involved outside of the classroom. And then tonight's episode is going to focus on parent and guardian information. So kind of some housekeeping details right away. We do have a Q&A feature on Zoom, so feel free to use that to ask any questions that you may have. We will also have time for questions at the end, so you can also save them for that portion of the presentation. And if you want to check out any of the previous week's presentations, they are on the same website you used to access this webinar. We have the slides posted as well as recordings, and tonight's episode is also going to be recorded and posted to that same page as well, so you can go back and check that out at your leisure later on. And we'll also have a list of links towards the end of the presentation, and that'll be a great resource to check out later to be able to view our website and certain things there. And then for those of you who attended last week's experience-based learning presentation, some of this information may be a little bit reviewed to you, but we will have some new items for you as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with some introductions. So again, welcome to the College of Engineering. My name is Carly Loving, and I'm a senior studying civil engineering. I'm also in the Honors College, and I'm a College of Engineering ambassador. And there's about 25 of us in total. We help out the college with recruitment, outreach, as well as alumni relations and current student support. And there's several of us who are on this presentation this evening. As far as activities I'm involved in here on campus, I'm a part of the American Society of Civil Engineers, the Steel Bridge team. I'm also an active member of Phi Sigma Rho, which is the engineering sorority. I'm vice president for Tau Beta Pi, which is the Engineering Honor Society. And I'm also a member of the College of Engineering's Leadership Academy. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kristen to introduce herself.
Like Carly said, I'm a third year student studying mechanical engineering with a minor in aerospace engineering. I'm also a member of the Honors College. I'm working on my Honors College thesis right now, looking at supercritical carbon dioxide as a potential liquid coolant for supercomputers. I'm involved with the Society of Women Engineers, and I'm also on the global formula racing team. So I'll pass it on over to my fellow ambassador, Jake, to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I am a Leadership Academy member, College of Engineering ambassador. My name is Jake Ellers. I'm in my third year in the Mechanical Engineering program at Oregon State University, and I am the treasurer of Inventors Enterprise, which is a club that sponsors student projects and a hardware competition each term that allows people to get creative and apply their engineering skills to create different devices. I will now pass it off to Scott Peja to introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Peja, and I have the pleasure of working as the Assistant Dean of Experiential Learning and Employer Relations here in the College of Engineering. What that means is that I work with our Career Center, our Leadership Center, Center for Diversity and Inclusion, a lot of great team members, and supporting students through student organizations and helping coordinate what we do externally with the companies who want to employ our students for internships and full-time opportunities. Let's keep it moving and head towards Sarah Kylo.
Good evening, everyone. Like Scott said, my name is Sarah Kylo. I am the first year head advisor. So myself, along with our other 4 full-time advisors, advise students throughout their first year in the College of Engineering. And I will hand this off to Brett.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brett Jeter, and I'm the Assistant Dean of Academic Programs. So really the advising and student service aspects of the college are areas that I get to work with, along with the 30 plus academic advisors that the college currently has. And then we will hand this off to Marissa for her introduction.
Hi, I am also a College of Engineering ambassador. I'm a 4th year student studying bioengineering with a minor in psychology. A few things I'm involved with on campus. I'm also in the College of Engineering Leadership Academy. I'm involved with Phi Sigma Rho, the engineering sorority, and with club sports. And I will pass it off to Mackenzie.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Mackenzie Foster. I am a senior studying civil engineering. I'm also involved in the College of Engineering Leadership Academy and Phi Sigma Rho. And next year I will be pursuing my Master's of Engineering also in civil engineering. Throughout this, I will be helping to monitor the Q&A sessions. So I'm excited to see you guys. And now I will pass it back to Carly.
All right, so we're going to keep moving forward. So here's our agenda for the evening. We're going to start off with talking about advising. So this includes for first-year students as well as transfer students. Then we'll talk about scholarships for in-state as well as out-of-state students. Then we'll dive into our support programs, and this is going to include tutoring as well as our career development center. Then we'll talk about some experiential learning opportunities such as the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, the Leadership Center, as well as internships and other cooperative programs. And then we'll wrap it up with additional student engagement opportunities and our Q&A session. So to start off with advising. So for first year advising, this is located in Johnson Hall, which is pictured on the right, and it's at the Office of Student Services. Now, first year students are going to meet their advisor during the summer start session. Now, at the summer start session, students are going to register for the classes, kind of get acclimated to life at Oregon State. Now, we're not 100% sure what the start session is going to look like over the summer. Maybe one of our guest speakers can elaborate on that in a little bit. But for the start sessions, typically they're on campus, students, their face-to-face interactions with their advisors, and then they'll be familiar with their advisors when we meet with them throughout the term. And so with those term meetings, so every term they'll meet with their advisor, they'll help them with selecting courses, so making sure that the classes they're taking will help them achieve their degree. They'll also help them acclimate to college life. So for a lot of first-year students, coming to college is really the first time they've been away from home for an extended period of time. And so advisors can help direct students to resources. They can be academic, like tutoring. They can also be encouraging them to get involved in extracurricular activities and other opportunities on campus. Now for transfer students, it's going to look a little bit different in the fact that they'll be meeting with a school advisor as opposed to a first-year advisor. Now for the College of Engineering, we're divided into 6 schools based on like majors. So for example, since I'm a civil engineering major, my school is the School of Civil and Construction Engineering. And that encompasses civil engineering, architectural engineering, as well as construction engineering management. And my advisor is very familiar with all 3 of those majors and really knows the in and outs of all those courses. So therefore, the school advisor is a really great person for transfer students to work with to help make sure that they're getting the help that they need to select their courses and really acclimate to their college life. And they'll also work closely with our student transitions coordinator to make sure that they have a smooth transition as well. Now, another thing I would like to mention is our degree partnership program. Now, this allows students to dual enroll at a community college as well as Oregon State. Very popular choice for students oftentimes is Lynn Benton Community College, but we also have a whole other list of participating schools on our website for students to check out. And if they are a part of the degree partnership program, they will continue to work with their first year or school advisor, depending on what year they are. So they'll still get advising here at Oregon State. Now, depending on what community college, financial aid, scholarships, and course offerings are going to vary. So be sure to check that out at each individual community college. Now, before I move on to the next section, do any of our guest speakers have anything they would like to add to this section?
Hi, Curly. I'm going to jump in here for just 1 second. Again, this is Brett, the Assistant Dean of Academic Programs. So a little update on START that just happened in the last day or 2 that the ambassadors are unaware of is START sessions are going to be moving to a remote delivery over the summer. You're still going to get all of the engagement of the academic advisors working with you on course selection, how advanced credits work, and all of those different elements, but it is going to be through kind of an email and remote delivery during the summer months. And then at the beginning of the year, around September, before you would normally move to campus, we will be hosting hopefully some more on-campus events focused on the community, the engagement, getting to know the college in that setting. So has been a little shift in the last 24 hours here as we go through, and a lot more information will be coming soon. Start registration will still be opening around May 15th, as it would in the past when we were having you on campus. So watch for messages coming from the new student programs and family outreach along with our academic advisors.
All right, well, it appears no one else has anything to add, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So our next topic is going to be scholarships. So for the College of Engineering, first-year students are automatically considered for some merit-based scholarships. However, students are encouraged to apply for the OSU Scholar Dollars application, and this is the OSU Oregon State University Scholarship application. And these are due February 1st of every year. And it not just isn't for first-year students. Students can apply every year there at Oregon State. So if they're a junior going into their senior year, they can definitely apply for scholarships. Now moving into more specific ones for in-state students, these are a list of the scholarships that we do offer. We have our Presidential Scholarship, our National Merit Scholarship, International Baccalaureate or IB Diploma Scholarship. If students are involved in ROTC, we do have scholarships for them. as well as the Finley Academic Excellence Scholarship. Now, one thing to note about the Finley Academic Excellence Scholarship is that this is based on students' unweighted high school GPA, as well as their highest test score. So that could be either the SAT or the ACT, depending on what they took. And another thing to note about scholarships is if a student's grades or test scores do improve after they've already been sent to Oregon State, they may be eligible for increased financial support, but that is going to vary on a case-by-case basis. This is not necessarily guaranteed. And another scholarship opportunity I do kind of want to make a plug for is the OSAC scholarship, or the Office of Student Access and Completion. Now, this is for Oregon students, so in-state students who are applying to Oregon schools. And it's very similar to the Common App in the sense it's one application for a variety of different scholarships. So really streamlines the whole scholarship system. Students can fill it out and it applies them for several different scholarships. So really great opportunity to take advantage of. Now moving on to out-of-state scholarships, we do have special programs for certain states. So if you're from Hawaii, Washington, California, or Idaho, we do have more information for you if you check it out on our website. And like I said in the beginning, all of these kind of websites that we're referring to we do have a list of all of them at the very end of the presentation with links to all of them. So when these slides are posted, you can go back and check them out later on. And for transfer students. So transfer students can still apply for scholarships. Again, they will use the OSU Scholar Dollars application, but some transfer students may also be eligible for OSU merit-based scholarships, and these amounts, qualifications, etc., are going to vary for in-state versus out-of-state students. So we're going to move ahead to our next section, which is student support programs, and I'm going to turn it over to Jake.
Thank you, Carly. So I'll be talking about the academic support programs and the tutoring options available for students here at Oregon State University. And the first main thing to know about the academic support options is that tutoring here is free to Oregon State students, and there is class-specific tutoring and general tutoring. That means there's certain locations on campus where there will be multiple representatives for a specific class that are able to help with tutoring. And then there are certain locations on campus where there's more general tutoring, where specified people will come in. Those will be undergraduate students or graduate students who have experience in specific courses. And there will be a more rotating model in that room where you can get help. And we'll cover that as we go on. There's drop-in appointments for tutoring, and there's by appointment tutoring options. And those are offered in the afternoon, in the morning, and in the evening. I've gotten help with some classes through the tutoring options here at Oregon State University from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then was able to submit my work on time, even if it's the day of, because we know life does happen and we know that everybody should be able to get help with tutoring. There is engineering specific tutoring options based in Johnson Hall. So you can get help with chemistry courses, physics courses, computer science and electrical engineering courses. So those will be like dynamics or thermal fluid sciences, which students will take in their first 2 years. There is help for the math series and for your mechanical engineering courses. And those are all based in different study rooms in Johnson Hall. There are supplemental instruction tables that are led by students who have excelled in the course, and these are peer-led study groups. And the leaders of those study groups will attend lecture and are trained in active learning strategies. So this is a close-knit way to ask questions with other people in the course that you are in and get help in a closer-knit group of people. These meet each week for approximately an hour and are currently only offered to certain courses. So past examples of that have been biology, general chemistry, and calculus. And then there is the Mathematics and Statistics Learning Center that's in Kidder Hall on the first floor. That's sponsored by the College of Science. And there are many tables and many undergraduate and graduate tutors to help you out with different levels of math as you progress through the program here at the mathematics programs here at Oregon State. Then there is the Wormhole in Winokur, and that is to help you out with physics courses. So the physics series at Oregon State can be notoriously hard, and the Wormhole is full of people who are going to help make that those courses easier. Then there is the Mole Hole, we notice a pattern with the names here. They're themed after each of the courses. The mole hole is in the Valley Library on the 3rd floor, and you can get chemistry help there. That is also sponsored by the College of Science. And then there's the Volvo in Winokur Hall on the 1st floor, and that is for biology help. That is also sponsored by the College of Science. And then there's the Writing Center back in the Valley Library. That's on the 2nd floor, and that can help you with brainstorming and editing your papers. Those supports are open to all students, including English language learners. So whether you wrote 8 pages for a 4-page essay and now need to edit it down, or only have 2 pages and are still coming up with ideas, that is a great resource for all students at Oregon State to get help with their writing. Then there's the Academic Success Center in Waldo Hall on the 1st floor. You can get academic coaching there, and they will provide you with strategies to help you with studying, how to study better, how to get ahead on your work and make sure you're staying up to date with your coursework. There are office hours in the Academic Success Center that you can go visit, and there are resources for study groups. It doesn't look like that, so we'll move on to the next section. So there are support programs through the Career Development Center here at Oregon State University, and this will help you get internships, jobs, and general help with your resume. So this is based in Johnson Hall, and it's staffed by trained students and then Career Development Center staff. And the services include resume building. So when you're first coming up with your resume and wanting to make sure you're showing off all the right things. And then interview tips to make sure you're practiced and your interview is going to go well when you're actually doing it for the first time. So there's lots of dry run interviews that you can do throughout the year. And those are company representatives that come to campus, and then you can interview with them and they'll give you feedback. I've done that multiple times and it's been quite helpful. And then there's navigating the job search. There are different resources, which we'll talk about in a few slides, that are able to help you navigate the job search to get companies' attention, and specifically companies that are focused on wanting to hire Oregon State University students. So the Career Development Center is really useful for anything career related, and they have drop-in hours every day. So whether you have a busy schedule on Tuesday or Monday, shouldn't matter. You should be able to get into the Career Development Center to meet with these representatives and get help, which is a very useful thing. Then there are career fairs. These are offered each term, and over 250 engineering companies attend throughout the year. So you get a lot of face time with these different company reps if you go. You can start going even if you're not planning on getting a job that year or getting an internship that year, because the company reps really want to see people who are enthusiastic and they really like sharing information about the companies. So if you go multiple years in a row, your face will start to get recognized by those company reps, and then you can establish a rapport for the time that you actually are looking for a job and an internship. There are both local and national companies. So it can be just a very interesting experience, and getting that experience early on can be pretty important. There's networking nights to give you more face time with those company representatives. So if you end up going to the networking nights sponsored by the schools in the College of Engineering and then attend the career fair multiple years in a row, you're going to get a lot of face time, and those company reps are going to start to know you. And then when they see even just your name on a resume that they were handed, they'll have your name will stand out there and your resume will stand out, and it can be very helpful. And then as we talked about, there's resources for the job selection. So I am currently answering the question, what can I do with my major? And sometimes that can feel like a really tough question to answer, but resources like Handshake make answering that question a little bit easier, because they have job postings from companies that are looking for Oregon State University students, and you can then apply to those jobs, and the companies are going to be more interested in you than they are other candidates in certain fields. So if you're scrolling on LinkedIn and not finding anything, Handshake is a really good resource. Then there's VMock, which will give you instant resume feedback when you upload your resume. because technology is quite amazing these days, and it's a really good resource if you are crunched for time, you just realized the perfect job application is closing in a couple of days and you need feedback on your resume. You can use VMock to get that important feedback and make sure your resume is going to work well for that job posting. There are other resources like Focus 2 that helps you get a career assessment for yourself. And then there's Standout that allows you to get interview practice before the day of the actual interview. And there's Going Global, which is a guide to the international opportunities available to students at Oregon State University. And before passing it off, I'd like to once again see if any of the guest speakers would like to talk about this.
Great job, Jake. This is Scott Peja, and I work, as I said, as an assistant dean focused on experiential learning and employer relations. Jake highlighted a lot of the services and support that we have for students in these areas. And I think the only things that I can add in terms of more on the scale of the employer interest in College of Engineering students at Oregon State, in terms of the numbers of companies recruiting on campus specifically for engineering students, I can say that last year, over 600 companies were actively recruiting our students, meaning they had visited our campus more than once. This is, pretty incredible, and it's a great benefit to students on our campus. We're working really hard to have these services available, and in addition to kind of what Jake has shared about the virtual services, the in-person drop-ins, the events that we host, I think one of the real benefits is some of the network that's been developed as the engineering school here for the state of Oregon. So I'm just really excited about what we're doing, and glad to have the opportunity to answer questions later on in the session.
Wonderful. And now I will pass the baton over to my fellow ambassador, Kristen Travers.
So I'm going to be talking about experiential learning opportunities offered through the College of Engineering and OSU. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is internships, which Jake kind of brushed on. So internships are not required to graduate, but they are highly encouraged. It's a really, really, really great way for you to try out some of the things that you're learning in your classes and see if it's something that you could see yourself doing for the next 30 to 40 years. For example, I had an internship at Intel last summer, and although I really like thermal fluid sciences, I realized that I would rather be working on airplane propulsion than thermal management and electronics. And now I know I don't have to get a job at Intel after I graduate. The Career Development Center has lots of different opportunities for students, like Jake was talking about, but they also send out opportunities via Handshake, which is kind of like LinkedIn, but it's a little bit more focused for colleges. So one really great program that Oregon State offers that's a little bit unique to us is called MECOP, and CCAP if you're a civil engineer. So it stands for the Multiple Engineering Co-op Program, and it provides students with 2 6-month paid internships. So what this would look like is you would take a term off your junior and senior year to do an internship over the summer and 1 term during the year. So it does require you to take an extra year to graduate, but we look at this as more of a positive because you're graduating with your degree and a whole year of industry experience, which is invaluable. A lot of times these internships lead to potential job offers, and you're getting paid about 80% of what a real engineer makes, so about $20,000 per internship, which is a great way to cover the cost of school as well. Students are placed at 2 different companies, so you won't go back to the same company your second year. A lot of times it's more of like a private sector and a public sector. So for instance, private would be Intel or Boeing, and then a public sector would be maybe you're working at the Department of Transportation or something. Scott, do you have anything that you want to add about internships?
I think you did a great job of highlighting what's going on through the Multiple Engineering Cooperative Program, and we're very excited to have had that program start at Oregon State and continue participating in that program. There's over about 700 student placements per year across 150 companies just through that specific internship program. And in terms of trying to provide some context, I would say that's probably about 1/3 of the internships that might happen throughout the year. So just a lot of great opportunity for students, and I think you did a nice job of introducing that, Kristen.
Thank you very much. I definitely think that this is one of the best programs that Oregon State has. So I definitely recommend looking into a little more if you're interested. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. The Center for Diversity and Inclusion supports students who are traditionally underrepresented in the field of engineering, and we support them through different clubs and programs. So some supported groups include DACA and undocumented students, first-generation students, international students, LGBTQ+, students of colors, students with disabilities, women, low-income students, veterans, you name it, they're supported. So the Center for Diversity and Inclusion supports 6 different organizations. We have ACMW, which is our newest organization this year. It's the Association for Computing Machinery Women's Chapter. So it's like a club for women in computer science. We have the National Society of Black Engineers, Out in STEM, which is our LGBTQ+ club for science and engineers. We have the Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and also the Society of Women Engineers. I'm actually the current president of the Society of Women Engineers. I joined my freshman year through the mentorship program called SWESTers. I met a lot of my best friends through SWE. I'm actually living with 3 people that I met on the rafting trip the first weekend of OSU through SWE next year, which is really crazy. So I definitely recommend, if you don't want to get involved in one of these organizations, to get involved with one club, because college is a lot more collaborative than you think it's going to be. So the Center for Diversity and Inclusion also holds some like standalone events outside of those organizations. We do supply drives. So the picture on the top right is from February. We did an Adopt-a-Month for the Human Resource Center. We collected dorm-friendly foods and personal hygiene products. And these are just some of the donations. We had a great turnout, and I think we're going to do it again next year. They also offer luncheons. So last term, Maxim Integrated, which is a technology company in Hillsborough and California, came and talked to us and brought us free lunch. So it's definitely a good way to network and get food. They also have socials. So fall term, they did a rock painting night at the Craft Center, which was a ton of fun. They host club meetings, so a lot of times our SWE meetings will be in the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. De-stressing events, because engineering can be really hard sometimes, especially during midterm season, which is all the time when we're on the quarter system. And then they also host engineering and social justice workshops. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about the Leadership Academy and Center. So a couple of years ago, Oregon State asked its industry partners, like, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the engineers we're producing? And they were like, well, they're great engineers. Like, they really know their technical stuff, but they're lacking some soft skills. So the Leadership Academy was born to help students develop those interpersonal skills, things like leadership, networking, communication, public speaking, that you're not working on in all of your engineering classes. So it is a professional development program, and they host a variety of seminars and workshops all year long. The 2 biggest are Suit Camp and Summit. Suit Camp is like a mock interview day. So I think you get to do 3 mock interviews with industry professionals. So it's a great way to work on your interview skills for when you have a real interview, and also network. And then Summit is a day of keynote speakers and lots of different breakout sessions. This year, our keynote speaker had hiked Mount Everest and related it to his time as an engineer, which was really cool. There's also the Seattle Trek, which students get to travel to Seattle and tour Boeing, Microsoft, and Amazon, which is really cool. This year, they're actually going to go to the Bay Area over spring break. Unfortunately, it was canceled, but maybe they'll go next year. And then they do other industry tours outside of the Seattle Trek, and then workshops. So one workshop that I really enjoyed through the Leadership Academy was one about negotiating your salary. It was really interesting. They said the #1 reason that people don't have higher salaries is because they don't ask. So I'll definitely use those tips when I start working, hopefully next year. And then overall, it's just a really great way to build your network and work on communication and different interpersonal skills. There's also the Grand Challenges Scholars Program. Scott, do you want to add anything about the Leadership Academy? I know you're very involved.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity, Kristen. I think that really what I would encourage prospective and incoming students to think about is how they can sort of add that extra factor to their marketability and gain more perspective on what they want to do, not just in career, but in life following their time as a student. And so this is just a great way to provide some structure for that while you're in college. It's a free program that any engineering student can apply to participate in. It provides a lot of great, as you mentioned, access and resources for personal development. You have the ability to interact with students from across all disciplines, as well as graduate students. There are master's and PhD students who will take advantage of the trainings and workshops as well. And I think, you know, what you can think about too is this is just another way to get more out of your time on campus. And you briefly referenced the Grand Challenges Scholars Program. That's a National Academy of Engineering program. And Oregon State is one of the, I believe we were like the 47th school in the United States to participate. So it's a pretty select group. Those who complete that program receive a letter from the National Academy. They also get a letter from our dean, and they are designated as a Grand Challenge Scholar. So it's quite a impressive distinction to add to your qualifications.
Okay, so next I'm going to talk about some other engagement opportunities through the College of Engineering and also OSU. So the first is Engineers Week. Every February, we have an Engineers Week hosted by the Engineering Student Council. It's really a way to connect students across all of the engineering majors. And then there are nightly events. So to start the week, we have Pecha Kucha, which if you're not familiar with it, it's a presentation competition so that you have 20 slides and 20 seconds per slide. And the College of Engineering clubs are encouraged to participate. So actually the Society of Women Engineers got first place last year, and then they got second place this year. And it's a really fun, high-paced, high-energy night. And it's a great place to go if you're like interested in learning more about clubs as well. Then there's Diversity Dialogues, which is a way for the organization supported through the Center for Diversity and Inclusion to promote their clubs, talk about their experiences in engineering. And then there's also a keynote speaker. This year we had Dr. Rhodes from the robotics department talk about imposter syndrome, which was really impactful. And then to end the week, we have Engineers Rock the Plaza, which is hosted in the Student Experience Center, between the Student Experience Center and the MU. We have a live band, there's free food. This year there's cheesy stuffed burgers, and they were giving out free french fries and games. And it's just a really fun way to end the week. And the cool thing about this band is that a lot of the members are actually on the Global Formula Racing team. So they were all like engineers too. Then we have OSU After Dark, which is sponsored by Rec Sports each term. This is a free event. There's tons of free food. Maybe you're sensing a theme here. And there's different recreational events and games like you can see in the picture. Lots of prizes. You can get lots of free shirts. Benny the Beaver is normally there, which is always fun. And it is a dry event and it's free for all students. Typically the first OSU After Dark is Welcome Week, and that's a really great way to make friends right off the bat. So with that, I'm gonna allow any of our guest speakers to add anything if they want. And if not, then I'll pass it back to Carly. Okay, Carly, are you ready to wrap things up for us?
Yes, let me just get this presentation up. All right, everyone. So again, here are the list of internet resources we've been referring to throughout the presentation. I know there's quite a few of them, so definitely check this out. Again, this presentation will be posted on our website, so you can go back through and check out all these links, as well as a recording of this presentation if you would like to listen to it again. So that wraps up our webinar. So thank you all so much for attending. We do have our Q&A session next, but if you think of questions later on, please feel free to shoot us an email at coe.ambassadors, ambassadors with an S, at oregonstate.edu. It is monitored by current ambassadors and we'll be able to answer your questions or direct you to whoever can help answer your questions. And one other plug I do want to make is on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we do have ambassador office hours, and these are held via Zoom. They're from 3 to 5 p.m. and you can access them on the same website you use to log on to this webinar with. And it's staffed by ambassadors like us who are there to help answer any questions. It's really casual, not super formal or anything like that. Students are encouraged to attend as well as parents if you have any questions. But like I said, we will be moving on to our Q&A session next. I'm going to turn it over to Mackenzie.
All right, hello everyone. So the first question that we have is, have all scholarships been announced already? And for this question, I'm going to pass it off to Brett Jeter.
It's a good question, and thanks, Mackenzie, for sharing that. So a variety of scholarship awards are still happening. So for any of you that are incoming first year or transfer students, the University Scholarships Office, as well as financial aid, is planning on getting those out by May 1st, is kind of the deadline attached to that. And that would include all of the presidential, the merit, the neighboring state scholarships. I saw some questions come through about the Evergreen scholarship in those areas. All of those are still being rolled out and will go through really until June 1st to go through, but the initial awards should start showing up on financial aid and award packages here soon. That also includes most all of the College of Engineering first year scholarships. So our Dean Scholarship, our Engineering Opportunity and Success Scholarships. We are excited that we have some new ones on board and coming out very quickly that are still being awarded, and they will be continuing until around June 1st. After that date, most of the first year scholarships will be awarded. But if you ever have questions with that, contact our University Scholarships Office or financial aid, and they can continue to update you on kind of your award package as well.
And then Brett, 2 more questions also about this. The first is, can students still apply for scholarships? And then what happens if they filled out the Scholar Dollars application after February 1st? Are they still eligible for scholarships?
Sure. And Marissa, can you repeat the first one for me? Because I lost that one, sorry.
Yeah, the first one is, can I still apply for scholarships?
Great. From a university standpoint, the Scholar Dollar application has been closed. It typically closes around February 15th for the next academic year. So for the 2021 academic year, if I remember my dates all of a sudden. So that one is closed. There are external scholarships still available. So the OSAC that Carly mentioned earlier in the webinar does have some different deadlines related to current situations. A lot of private foundations and others have extended their scholarship deadlines. So I would continue to look both on our website as well as some of the external websites for scholarships outside of OSU. If you applied really between February 1st and February 15th, all of those Scholar Dollar applications are still being considered both at the university and the college levels. After that point, they are still being recorded, so students can still submit a scholarship application, but the available funds do become very limited, so we can't necessarily consider them for all accounts.
Great. All right. So I have a question for the ambassadors. General freshman question. Should you bring a car to campus or not? What are your guys' thoughts? Kristen, let's start with you.
I didn't have a car my freshman year. I think that it's a little bit hard and expensive to find parking. I think first year, just make friends with somebody that has a car and then use them to go to the grocery store. But most of the time, you don't really need to go anywhere because everything's so accessible. I do have a car now and that I live off campus, and I would say it's much more helpful. But freshman year, I think you're probably okay without it.
And just to kind of play devil's advocate, I did have a car. I was at the time working in Albany, so I needed a car to get to my job, of course. And I enjoyed being able to take other people with me to like the beach or to go up to Portland, things like that. So it's a good way to kind of make some new friends as well. It really depends on what you're going to be doing with or without the car. For our next question, I'm going to direct this towards Sarah and Scott. Sarah and Brett. So what are the dates for START and what will START look like? Will students have a chance to meet one-on-one with advisors?
Brett, do you want to start with the dates?
Sure, I'll start with that. Sarah and I were probably both staring at each other across the screens there. So start dates are still being determined, but essentially what is going to happen, instead of the multiple dates that a lot of families may have experienced in the past, there's going to be essentially 4 cycles running from June 1st throughout the month of August to go through, where students will sign up for one of those different sessions. There'll be some kind of pre-work that we'll have you do as far as math placement exams, some questions about your advanced credits, how those work, how those don't work in those different parts of it. And then there'll be a period of time that the advisors will be working with you one-on-one to kind of fine tune what your schedule is going to look like. Sarah and her team will be interacting in a variety of ways, as well as after that initial interaction, to make sure to continue to connect with you until classes begin in the fall term as well. So there'll be a series of rolling dates for you to sign up for, and they are open to both first year and transfer students. So those will be coming out very quickly, and then there'll be a period of time from your initial session when you get access to those pre-Canvas or pre-work kind of assignments that we have you do with us, to the time that the academic advisors will be working with you to kind of really personalize it and make it your schedule, your experience throughout that start session too. Sarah, anything you want to add on that?
Just that our students use Canvas for a lot of their work in classes, and that is what we're going to be using for START. So it'll actually be a really good introduction for students to get used to using that. And the nice thing about that is that information is available throughout the summer. So instead of trying to learn everything in a few days over summer, students and parents will have more access to information and advisors throughout the summer. So if a student meets with their advisor over Zoom and gets their schedule, it doesn't mean that they can't keep contacting us throughout the summer to make sure that they have all their questions answered.
So question, when do transfer students apply for MECOP and CCAP? I'm gonna direct that towards Brett.
I'm actually going to redirect that, Mackenzie, towards Scott, because he is the expert on the MECOP and CCAP world. So.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very individualized. So it will depend on when you're transferring in, what credits you bring in, and sort of where that puts you in your progress towards graduation as a student in the College of Engineering at Oregon State. The academic advisors that are going to help work with you to find out if you're ready to go. But, you know, if you come in with your full preparation, it might be that you're ready that following spring to be in the next application cycle. It might be that you need another year before you could go in for consideration on the process. And then I think that there was maybe a couple of other MECOP related items as well. And so I'll just say a couple more things about that program in general, in that as a student, if you're a domestic student, you would be participating in the program, you would take a term off of school, you would still maintain your student status. You would not be paying tuition on campus because you're not necessarily taking classes. Now, if you choose to take some part-time, that's definitely something that students will oftentimes choose to do. And I know we have some folks even in the ambassador crew here who have experience either with MECOP or CCAP. They could probably weigh in from the student perspective. That would also be really helpful.
Yeah, I can go ahead and talk a little bit about the MECOP or CCAP program. So like I said before, I'm majoring in civil engineering, and I am a part of the CCAP program since I am a civil engineering major. And I completed my first internship this past year. So for my junior year, I took regular classes, fall and winter term. And then for my spring term, that was taken off, and I was placed at a company in Salem, Oregon. So I lived in Corvallis and just commuted. And it was a pretty great opportunity to be able to get that real world experience. And it was a little strange having my peers talk about like classes and me kind of missing out on that. But the experience, especially over that 6 months period, I was able to see projects from start to completion, which I think is pretty unique compared to like a 3-month summer internship where you're only really there for a short amount of time. So it's harder to see a full project get completed, especially in the civil engineering world. And then moving ahead into my senior year, I've been placed at a different company. So I'm really excited to be able to kind of get the balance between the public and private sector, as I was at a private company for my first internship, and I got placed at a public entity for my second internship. So it's been a really great experience. And most students typically apply during their sophomore year. So you still have a couple of terms once you're in Oregon State and the College of Engineering to really find out your major. So then you get to find out more about your major specifically when you go on that internship. And I definitely did for sure.
And then another question for Scott. What are some of the companies that recruit OSU students?
Oh, wow. How much time do we have left? I think that we have companies across all industry sectors who are seeking talent from Oregon State, both, at all levels. And so I think big companies in aerospace or automotive, SpaceX, Boeing, Blue Origin up in Kent, Washington. We have tech companies like Intel and HP and Amazon and big names like that. We have municipalities and civil engineering firms. So think City of Portland, City of Eugene. It might be your local community has an OSU civil engineer who's helping do water treatment, keep the roads working, do traffic maintenance, etc. And then startups. It's actually been a really dynamic environment for students to get involved in small and mid-sized companies, both in Oregon and then up and down the West Coast and beyond. So I think, there's lots of really big partners, Kiewit and Daimler, Nike and, Genentech. And then there's small and family-owned companies who also employ a vast array of our graduates. So lots of different opportunities, lots of different options. And those folks are very engaged with us here on campus.
All right, so our next question I'm going to direct towards Sarah. What are the plans for fall if it continues to be remote? And how will first-year students make friends?
Yeah, that is a great question. We don't exactly know, right? Everything is changing. It'll definitely be a very different environment for incoming first-year students if classes have to be held remotely. But I think there's a lot of really good tools that we have access to help students become engaged. I know a lot of the student clubs are going to be thinking of different ways to still have club meetings virtually, to still have projects, competitions. And I know as an advising team, we would definitely be having those conversations with students of ways to get connected. There's ways within breakout rooms, within Zoom, and just a lot of tools that we probably haven't even thought of yet. So it would definitely be a different environment, without students moving to campus like they normally do. But we do have a lot of students in different online programs through OSU, and they have found some really great ways to form friendships and make their time really meaningful outside of just the classes that they're taking. So I think, we're all learning, and I think we will do the best to try to make it the best experience as possible. And it's temporary. So I think students can, if they're flexible, really find ways to connect with each other.
The next question is, does OSU do tuition freezes, and how will that change with the COVID situation, if at all? Brett, I'm going to pass this one off to you.
That's a great question. So historically, OSU has not frozen our tuition in different areas. There has been some recent announcements from the president's office, though, about some tuition freezes or guarantees for returning students within that area. I will say, as of right now, I don't think Scott or I in any of our leadership team meetings have heard any news about drastic tuition increases. There has been some planned for a period of time of the gradual increases for a while, but we aren't a part of any programs that have a 4-year guarantee or any kind of tuition freezes from a first year to senior status in OSU's history. That may change. Like I said, we never know. It kind of depends on what the provost and the president share with us in those different areas. But I do know that our senior leadership is definitely looking at different options, especially related to the current COVID-19 changes that have brought on to not only Oregon State, but to a lot of universities as well. I would say keep an eye on our OSU main website and the business affair or the financial aid and business affairs website. They would be the first ones to announce it, as that does come from the university's president's office more than from the college directly. Scott, anything that you would want to add? Okay, not seeing anything.
All right, so our next question is, does it matter which START session I participate in? And I'm going to direct that towards Sarah.
Yeah, so basically the earlier a student comes to start, the more availability there will be for classes, honestly. However, we do have students that aren't able to attend start every year until right before classes start, and they still do get a full schedule. They're still able to get in the classes that they want, especially for a lot of our first year students or students that might be transferring that don't have a ton of credits. There's a lot of options. So, if they can't take a general education class that term, it doesn't fit, there's lots of other opportunities for them to take a different option for a course. The only other thing it might mean if you come later is that you might not get your perfect time for your schedule. You might have to deal with that 8 o'clock math class for that term. But as advisors, we definitely help students find the classes that they need regardless of the time that they attend start.
Can I just
another
add
question?
one thing?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. One thing I wanted to mention is that even if you're in the honors college or you're coming in with like sophomore standing, everybody registers at the same time and starts. So the earlier you come, like Sarah was saying, maybe the more availability you'll like have to not have 8 a.m. chemistry.
So the next question is, can you provide more guidance on additional scholarships for out-of-state students? And Brett, I'm going to pass this one off to you again.
I don't have any specifics on that. Like I said, the neighboring state and the Provost Initiative scholarships that are part of the initial Scholar Dollars application are probably the big ones that the university has to offer, in addition to the College of Engineering Dean Scholarship for out-of-state students. Other than that, a lot of it really does depend on the financial aid situation that you and your families may be in those different parts of it. I would say talk to or connect with high school counselors, even if that's still in a remote methodology. They do have a lot of record of what's in your local communities, and can often share information about scholarships that may be in your local communities. If you're in Oregon, the OSAC, like I said, is this is for out of state. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. For out of state side, companies like Ford, Toyota, Coca-Cola, a lot of those big companies do have scholarship opportunities for students. So if you haven't looked into some of those, there's a website called petersons.com, as well as there's one other one. It will be on the OSU scholarship website, I know, that we do link to, that are reputable search engines that allow you to search for different scholarship opportunities nationwide and even internationally. My word of advice, if they are ever asking you to pay money, please do not fill out that information. Please do not connect with it. Those are typically not authentic opportunities for scholarships. Any scholarship opportunity should be a free application, and it should still respect your privacy in a lot of different areas. So that would be one thing to kind of watch for as well. Again, OSU's Financial Aid and Scholarship website does have some great tips and tricks to how to navigate search engines for scholarships that we can link into some of the information later today as well.
All right, so our next question is, when do you need to confirm your admission? And the answer to that is that students have until June 1st this year, so make sure that you accept by then. Our following question is, can AP class credits reduce tuition cost or the amount of time in college? And for that, I'm going to pass it off to Sarah.
Yes, so the answer to that is yes, and also it kind of depends. So we definitely have a lot of students that are coming into the College of Engineering with multiple AP class credits that they've had from exams. They also may have taken a class as dual credit while in high school at another community college, or maybe they're taking things over the summer. So depending on what those credits are for, those could definitely go towards the 180 or 192 credits required to graduate within our engineering programs. But it also depends on, again, what the student has taken. We do have a lot of general education requirements that all students across the board at Oregon State have to do before the time that they graduate. So things like freshman composition, things maybe like a history class or an English class are all part of our general education. So a lot of students, if they take AP credit, will cover some of those requirements. Another big one is going to be math that a lot of students will take. And sometimes that's a discussion with the advisor. Not all students that have AP credit for their first couple of math classes decide to move into that higher math when they first come to college. So that's usually a discussion during start with an advisor, whether it makes sense for the student to maybe retake another math just to feel really solid on it, or if they feel good about moving ahead. But anything that a student's coming in with potentially reduces the amount of classes they have to take at Oregon State. And that's kind of individual per student, and advisors definitely help navigate that process.
So then one last question is it possible to defer enrollment and scholarships after accepting if the pandemic situation requires online classes? Brett or Sarah, if you guys want to answer that.
Sure, I will take that one, Marissa. So yes, you can definitely defer enrollment. The university allows students to defer their enrollment for really essentially a year. So once you're accepted, and if you've chosen to come to Oregon State and your plans or financial situations change in that time, you can continue to have an active application and acceptance into Oregon State and defer that for up to a year to go through. After that period of time, there may be a reapplication that needs to happen. And that scholarships often can be deferred as well. I will say the university is definitely opening up some new possibilities as far as scholarship deferments. Historically, we were a little bit, if you weren't starting in a fall or a set time within that academic year that you were awarded scholarships, then you would risk the loss or losing those different scholarships within that. Those rules are changing a little bit because of what is happening in Oregon and throughout the world, where we do have a little bit more flexibility for students to defer their enrollment and their scholarships for a term or two and still have funding for when they choose to come to Oregon State because of the current situations going on.
All right, well, thank you so much, Brett, for that last answer. And again, thank you to everyone who attended this webinar. Again, this will be posted on our website later on, so be sure to check back. The slides will also be posted so you can access all of those links that we referenced throughout the presentation. So we hope you all enjoyed and have a good rest of your evening.